would think that in the sale of a property, who the seller is should be pretty easy. It's the person on the latest ownership deed, right? Not always. Just in 1 week, we opened 2 escrows in which the seller changed on us after the escrow was opened. So let's talk about this. And at the end, I'm going to offer you an escrow tip. Escrow number 1. There were 4 sellers, 2 couples, selling some vacant land. The purchase contract was drawn up, the escrow opening package was sent out, and then a few days later, the agent calls. The couples decided that they were going to have a property swap. So couple number 1 would get the property that was in escrow, and then couple number 2 would get another property that they co-owned. So could we please make this happen, they said. Oh, and did we tell you that this was a 10-day escrow that we were working with? So to make it happen, we had to open a separate new transfer of property transaction. We had to draw up instructions, draw up quitclaim deeds for each couple to sign, and of course, their agreement to exchange the properties. Then we had to go back to our sale escrow and change all the paperwork there to show only one couple. The real estate broker also had to amend the purchase contract, and of course, the packages had to be all sent out again for signature and notarization. So for a few days, it was a mad scramble to get the 2 transactions set up. We still had an escrow time that we had to meet. We don't work in a vacuum. There are other files that need our attention, and there are other fires to be put out. So could this have been prevented? Certainly, it would have helped if the 2 couples had consulted with each other and their legal and financial counsel when they first decided to sell the property. So they could have gotten the transfer paperwork done at that time. Then the correct owners' names would appear on the preliminary title report once this escrow transaction opened, and there would be less questions and concerns from a prospective buyer. In escrow number 2, the property was in a trust, and as the original trustees passed away, the successor trustee was in charge. The offer was made and accepted by this trustee. At opening, an ownership search was done and to verify the name of the trust, and lo and behold, a few weeks before, the successor trustee had transferred the ownership to 3 beneficiaries of the trust. Regretfully, the successor trustee failed to let the real estate agents know. Now, the sellers are 3 individuals. One lives out of state, another lives out of the country. And that seller who lived out of the country had an added complication in being a foreigner with no tax ID. So the delay to opening of the escrow was minimal, but there will be a delay in the closing as we deal with that foreign seller. In this particular case, I was surprised that the trust attorney recommended and drew the transfer ownership from the trust to the individuals. Normally, the trust sells all the properties and receives all the proceeds. Then it distributes the cash to the beneficiaries once all the trust debts and the bequests have been paid. So was it a requirement in the trust agreement that the property be transferred to the beneficiaries before the properties were sold? It certainly complicated matters for the 3 individual sellers. The successor trustee and the beneficiaries could not give a reason as to why the attorney recommended this route. This means that this attorney probably did not explain the consequences thoroughly. But unfortunately, what was done could not be undone, so we had to go forward from there. This is a big lesson to learn for all parties in that transaction. So here is my escrow tip for you or your clients. Changes to ownership should be considered carefully and way in advance of any sale of this asset. Get good legal and financial counsel when you're trying to make a change. There can be unintended consequences when it is not thought out carefully. This is Juliana too. Thank you for visiting my Think Escrow channel. I welcome your comments and your stories.